Good morning, dear students. Let's continue with our English session for the chapter, the last lesson. On the previous day, we people came across the little boy, Franz, who rushed towards his school because he was getting late for the school, frightened because he was not prepared for the lessons, which his French teacher, M. Hamel, asked him to do. On the way, he saw a big crowd front of the bulletin board. He thought what it might be this time, because all the bad news had come through the bulletin board. He was stopped by the blacksmith, Mr. Watcher, but he paid no attention and headed for the school. He found the school to be very unusual on that day, because generally whenever the school begins, a lot of bustles could be heard at the very corner end of the street, like the opening and closing of the desk, lessons being read in unison, the rapping of the ruler by the teacher. But that day, everything was silent, still, like a Sunday morning. He peeped in. He thought that he will take advantage of all this commotion and will sneak inside the classroom. But when he peeped inside, he found all his classmates seated in their places and his French teacher, M. Hamel, walking up and down, catching the ruler under his arm. Now he was left with no option but to move inside the class, to get inside the class, taking permission. He blushed, he was frightened. But to his surprise, M. Hamel didn't scold him. Instead, he said, "Little Franz, we were about to start without you, so please come in." He was surprised. Still, he went and sat down in his place. And after he has calmed down, he found more surprises were waiting for him. The next one was the outfit of his French teacher, M. Hamel, which he generally wore on only during the special days like inspection and prize distributions. He says that the entire surrounding of the school seems to be very solemn. I told you the meaning of solemn is sad. And then he found another surprise waiting for him. The last benches of the classroom, which always used to be empty, were occupied by the village elders. Former mayor, former postmaster, even the former mayor, Hauser, who wore a three-cornered hat, was holding a primer in his hand, which was thumbed at the edges, and was having the book open over his lap with the spectacles kept over the book. I hope you all remember this explanation which I did on the previous day. Let's continue further. While I was wondering about it all, M. Hamel mounted his chair and in the same grave and gentle tone which he had used to me, said, "My children, this is the last lesson I shall give you. The order has come from Berlin to teach only German in the schools of Alaska and Lorraine. The new master comes tomorrow. This is your last French lesson. I want you to be very attentive." What a thunderclap these words were to me. Oh, the wretches! That was what they had put up at the town hall? After all these things happened, still he was pondering over what's going on. M. Hamel mounted on his chair means he sat down on his chair. And in the same tone which he had used to give him permission to get inside the classroom, he said, "My children, my students, this is the last lesson that I'll be giving to you. The order has come from Berlin to teach only German language in the schools of Alaska and Lorraine. And the new master for the German language will be coming from the very next day onwards. So today is going to be the last French class that I'll be taking for you. This was Mr. M. Hamel's address to the class. The whole words were like a thunderclap for France. He said to himself, the wretches is a word being used for the German people. So he said that this is what was put up on the bulletin board, and that's why the crowd was there in front of the bulletin board. Now he got everything. Now let's see in this coming paragraph how the things have changed for France suddenly. My last French lesson. Why? I hardly knew how to write. I should never learn any more. I must stop there then. Oh, how sorry I was for not learning my lessons, for seeking birds' eggs, or going sliding on the Saar. My books, that had seemed such a nuisance a while ago, so heavy to carry. My grammar and my history of saints were old friends now, that I couldn't give up. And M. Hamel too. The idea that he was going away, that I should never see him again, made me forget all about his ruler and how cranky he was. Now, the understanding that dawned upon France, he started thinking about within himself. Last French lesson? How could it be? He knew hardly how to read and write French. And he has to stop now? Now he started regretting. He felt sorry that instead of learning the lessons, he had spent his time looking out for birds' eggs or going out sliding on the Saar, playing about. See the way his feelings changes. He said his books till that time seemed to be a nuisance, useless, futile thing to him, very heavy to carry. His grammar and his history books, history about the saints, now seemed like old friends whom he don't want to give up. And M. Hamel, whom he considered to be a very cranky master, always carrying the ruler, rapping on the table, suddenly the thought of his going away forever, never able to see him again, make him forget everything about his ruler and the fact that how cranky M. Hamel was. Let's continue, students. Poor man, it was in honor of this last lesson that he had put on his fine Sunday clothes, and now I understood why the old men of the village were sitting there in the back of the room. It was because they were sorry, too, that they had not gone to school more. It was their way of thanking our master for his 40 years of faithful service, and of showing their respect for the country that was theirs no more. My dear students, this paragraph, pay little attention, because from past through 2 to 3 years in the board examination, a question had been coming up for this particular para regarding why the last benches were occupied by the village elders. So in this para, now France realized why M. Hamel was wearing those fine clothes which he generally used to put on inspection and prize distribution days. It was in honor of the last French class which he was going to take for his students. Also, he understood why the last benches were occupied by the village elders. 3 reasons were there. First reason was guilt, remorse, regression, that why they didn't go to school when time was there. Second, it was a mark of respect, a way to thank the master, M. Hamel, for his 40 years of services. And third one, that was a way to show respect for the country, which was no longer theirs. Let's continue. While I was thinking of all this, I heard my name called. It was my turn to recite. What would I not have given to be able to say that dreadful rule for the participle all through, very loud and clear, and without one mistake. But I got mixed up on the first words and stood there, holding on to my desk, my heart beating and not daring to look up. When I have read these lines for you people, I think that many a times you might have also faced the same situation when something has been said to you and you are not prepared, but the moment when it is asked to you, it comes in your mind, gosh, I would have studied and come. Here the situation is slightly different. Now this is going to be the last French class for them. No more French, only German language. A language which is not going to be their mother tongue, which is not their mother tongue at all. So when such a situation arises where something is going to be snatched away, my dear children, see, it's very simple. Like how in a fist you can hold the sand, but the moment you open it up, it just falls out. You cannot hold it. Time also is the same way. You cannot hold, you cannot catch. It flies. It passes. You cannot bring back. You cannot put a reverse gear. Here also same thing. One very beautiful line is there which I would like you to pay attention. Franz says that while he was thinking about all those things, that why my teacher was wearing this outfit, why the backbenches were occupied, suddenly M. Hamel called his name to recite the rules of participle. And he says, what would I not have given to be able to say that dreadful rule for the participle all through, very loud and clear and without one mistake. We all know from the very beginning, we have seen very clearly that Franz knows nothing about participle. But at this particular moment, when he came to know that this is going to be the last French class for him, you know what he said? He was ready to give anything to be able to say the rules of participle loud, very clear, without any mistake. This is how life is. When you are about to lose, you want to keep it at any cost. That's what the feelings of Franz are right now. But, as was expected, when he stood up, he got mixed up with the words because he knows nothing about it. And then, with guilt and regression, he was holding tight his desk, his heart beating fast and not daring to look up. It was not that he was ashamed or he was frightened. It was regression. It was feeling sorry. Let's continue. I heard M. Hamel say to me, I won't scold you, little Franz. You must feel bad enough. See how it is. Every day we have said to ourselves, bah, I have plenty of time. I will learn it tomorrow. And now you see where we have come out. Ha, that's the great trouble with Alaska. She puts off learning till tomorrow. Now those fellows out there will have the right to say to you, how is it you pretend to be Frenchmen and yet you can neither speak nor write your own language? But you are not the worst, poor little Franz. We have all a great deal to reproach ourselves with. When Franz was not able to speak anything, give an answer, or recite, as been said over here in the lesson, M. Hamel, you know what he said? He said, I won't scold you, little friends. You are feeling bad, and you ought to feel bad. Then he started giving an explanation. You can say a right reasoning he gave. He said, See, this is how we all behave. Every day, we people say to ourselves, we are having plenty of time, and we postponed. A word we use, procrastination. We postponed learning till tomorrow. Don't you think that many a times you have done this, I have done this, that we people keep on postponing, thinking that tomorrow we will do it. But who has seen that tomorrow? Even James Bond famous movie, Tomorrow Never Comes. So same thing. Here also the same thing. Who had seen that tomorrow? And then M. Hamel said, this is the trouble with Alaska. He had used Alaska as a person over here and said, she always put off. Here when he said she, he didn't mean Alaska. He meant the people of Alaska. That she puts off learning till tomorrow. Everyone in Alaska had been postponing this learning. Tomorrow is there, we will learn. And now, M. Hamel said one line which tells us the situation very clearly. He says, if those German people come and ask you, you people of Alaska, that you call yourself Frenchmen, and yet you cannot write or read in French, do you have the right to call yourself Frenchmen? So very true. Then he said, my dear poor little France, you are not the only one. We all have got great deal to reproach ourselves means we just have to think over many things and bring changes within ourselves. Let's see further this para which I'm going to read out. Again, I would like to tell you students to pay keen attention towards this, because in board examination related to this question had come many a time. The question is generally, M. Hamel blames whom for the negligence in the part of France towards studies. Your parents were not anxious enough to have you learn. They preferred to put you to work on a farm or at the mills so as to have a little more money. And I have been to blame also. Have I not often sent you to water my flowers instead of learning your lessons? And when I wanted to go fishing, did I not just give you a holiday? So here, actually, 3 people have to be blamed. But who are all those 3 people? First, it's France itself, who never was interested in studying. But we will keep it aside. And the 2 people on whom he had paid more stress are first, parents. He said that parents in Alaska were more anxious or more interested in earning money, and for this reason they were more interested, or they preferred more in sending their children to work in farms and mills to earn money rather than sending them to school for studying. Then he blamed the second person. You know who it was? That second person is M. Hamel himself. He said, am I not to be blamed? Because whenever I felt like I asked you to go and water my flowers instead of learning your lessons. And whenever I wanted to go fishing, did I not give you a holiday? So he has blamed 2 people. First, the parents of the children, and second, he himself. So please do remember these points clearly. Let's continue further. Then from one thing to another, M. Hamel went on to talk of the French language, saying that it was the most beautiful language in the world, the clearest, the most logical, that we must guard it among us and never forget it. Because when a When people are enslaved, as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if they had the key to their prison. Then he opened a grammar and read us our lesson. I was amazed to see how well I understood it. All he said seemed so easy, so easy. I think too that I had never listened so carefully, and that he had never explained everything with so much patience. It seemed almost as if the poor man wanted to give us all he knew before going away, and to put it all into our heads at one stroke. Now, here, M. Hamel, when he spoke about those two people responsible for the negligence of studies, further, he started talking from one thing to another, and then he started praising French language. He said French language is the most beautiful language in the world, the clearest and the most logical. But the important thing is that he said one very important thing. Here we people will be talking about linguistic chauvinism. Now, what is linguistic chauvinism? It means love for one's own language. Mother tongue, you can be, if you want to be specific about its mother tongue. He said, we must guard it among us and never forget. When a person is enslaved, as long as when he hold fast to his language, it's a key to their prison. A very simple example I would like to give you people over here. Years back, we people were slave. The Britishers ruled us. If you will just go back some 100, 200 years back, that time when the Britishers ruled us, if we would have been sticking to our regional languages, saying that, oh, I'm a Marathi, I'm a Punjabi, I'm a Gujarati, I'm a Malayali, I am so and so and so, maybe still we would have been slaves working under those Britishers. But we all stood together as one, as Indians. The mother tongue, it's not the mother tongue, it's the national language which brought everyone together. Indians, India, Hindi, Bharat, these all things brought us together. So he said that if you catch hold to your language, it will always be burning that